Have been, I think all of us have had the honor, have been so fortunate to be part of this film called Rang De Basanti, a movie that became a movement. I would like to call up Ronnie, Mr. Ronnie Screwwala, and Amrita to share their thoughts with you. And I'll also request when we share our thoughts, I think we'll all have to step back because once the stage fills up.
Rakesh, we want to first hear your thoughts before our thoughts start up. It all started with your thoughts before everybody else's thoughts start up. So we'll start with you.
I had been rehearsing this all night yesterday, and now I can't say a word. I think I'll break down.
Okay, so maybe I'll say a few words, actually. Firstly, welcome, Amrita. I remember her being a production executive from UTV on that show. So for her, time has not flown, because I think in 10 years now she heads the Disney studio in India, and I think that's a great movement for her. I have two very sharp memories of Rang De Basanti. Firstly, UTV was just starting off and getting into movies, and we had some really big flops when we started off. And most people looked at us and said, so who's this South Mumbai Parsi gentleman trying to do Hindi movies? And I think many people told us, you should get out of this. And for us, really, Rang De Basanti was a turning point in shaping what was otherwise going to be a studio that could have been of the past and became the present. And I think for that, we have only phenomenal memories for that. So it's a very, very, very special movie. For most people at that stage, everyone thought, wow, what a lucky break that you started there. But, if you look at that movie, and if you look at what went behind it and all the efforts and the thought process, it was anything but luck. And I think we had more than our challenges. And I just want to remember one serious challenge, where about, I think 10 days before the movie was getting released, we got a call from Sharmila Tagorji, who at that time was the censor board chairman, and said, listen, I think we're not going to be able to give you the censor certificate for this movie. And we were all wondering, and we all met at Aamir's place that evening. And typical Aamir style, he looked straight at me and said, Ronnie, we've made this movie with a clean heart. Now, if they ask us to cut even one scene, we should not release this movie. And my heart kind of fell, because on one side, I fully agreed with what he was saying. And on the other side, here was a small fledgling studio where 40 crores we had spent on the movie and another 8 crores on publicity. And I could visualize 48 crores going into a cupboard, getting locked, and forever never getting released. Cut to the next day, or I think the day after that, we all land up for a special screening in Delhi. We didn't know what we were in for. And inside we go in for the screening of the movie, and those were really memorable days. And there were just 6 or 7 or 8 of us in the theater. And we had the defense minister at that time, Pranab Mukherjee, who is now our president, very smartly flanked by Waheeda Rehman ji on the left and Sharmila Tagore on the right for the entire screening, just so that we could have a good mood for him across the... and then in front of him sat down the head of the Armed Force, the head of the Navy, and head of the Air Force. All 3 of them had their helmets on. Pranabji couldn't see, so he asked them to remove their caps and put it down on their seat. And then the movie started, and it finished. And I remember that very, very clearly, because firstly, our hand was in our mouth in many ways. But I think it was also a special day, because Pranabji got up and said, I like the movie. Why am I here, And I think Sharmila ji was trying to remind him that, sir, the defense minister gets shot in the movie, and you're the defense minister. And he said, not at all. I think it's a fantastic movie. It should have got released. And that was the power of somebody who could just say whatever he wanted. And I think the head of the Armed Force and the Navy looked at all of us and said, good movie. And the head of the Air Force looked at all of us and he said, I get 10 calls from mothers every month wondering about their sons who fly our MiGs. And after your movie, I'm going to get 100 calls a month. But go ahead, it's a fine movie. And I think that, to me, resonated very specially, because we really work and live in an incredible democracy that allows us, and I know a lot of people of us have a lot of skepticism on what we can and can't do, but to me that was a very special moment of what we can do in this country if we really move that. So those are my 2 very special memories, and I'll pass on to Amrita to say a few words too.
Okay. Really, I mean, I'm very humbled to be here. I'm really representing Sid and, the company. Sid is not here. We're missing him today. And I just want to say I feel really emotional. I might cry because it was my very first film in my very early years in UTV, which I worked on this movie with both of you all. Thank you. From start to end. And it was really, really special. And I think even till today, when we think about movies that have done very well for us at the studio, you usually think about movies which, have done so much box office and this and that. But with this movie, like Rakesh said, it's been such a movement. And, it's really been always about what you feel when you watch the film rather than numbers or anything. And I think it's so special that we almost made a movie as an ode to Rang De Basanti in No One Killed Jessica. Because, this movie really, like Ronnie said, shaped the DNA for the studio, shaped many of our careers. I remember Sid was heading marketing during, the campaign of this movie. And it's just been very, very special. And you guys were amazing. And where's Sharm? He's hiding somewhere. And I think he's been a big partner in crime. He's not here. I don't know why he's not here. Please call him because I can't force him. But you've got to get him here. But really, and a big, big, big shout out to a lot of my colleagues who are not here today. As in they're alive, but of course they're not here with us. They couldn't join us, but really thanks to all of them. Some of them, that I can remember is Ram, Srini, Yogi, Shikha, and Sid, of course. So now...
All of them have gone...
बनाना पड़ता है. Sid, सरफरोशी की तमन्ना अब हमारे दिल में. अतुल, DJ, साला मैं कुआरा ही मर गया यार. I would now request Sharman, Sid, and Atul to step up, and not in any order. Please share what's going on in your hearts right now.
Well, good evening to all of you. Thanks for being here. An absolute honor, one of my earlier films, and had the pleasure of working with possibly the greatest actor this country is going to produce, the greatest superstar, and a wonderful, wonderful human being, Aamir Khan. Rakesh Mehra, a director whom I couldn't have imagined to have worked with anyone better than him. I always had a dream. I remember I'd auditioned for this film, and I always had this little dream when I started off in my theater days that I want one film to happen to me in such a way. I'd given many auditions by then, but one audition where I finished the audition and the director should say, "Yeah, you're on, you're in the cast." And that's what happened with Rang De Basanti. I gave the audition and Mehra said, "Yeah, you're on." And I'm like, "Huh? What? Are you sure?" He sat in a room, we discussed. And then suddenly, of course, I grew in confidence as I sat with him since I was already a part of the film. I told him I saw your earlier film. I loved the first half. The second half didn't work. So he tells me, "Don't worry, with this one, we'll work the second half also." So, well, many more such fond memories, great friendships. Great time on the shoot, off the shoot. Sid, a wonderful love-hate relationship that we shared. We shared the same makeup brand, and there were days where we didn't talk to each other, and then, of course, days where we've had the best of friendship. Atul, who never liked me too much initially, but then he's in love with me. He's been very fond of me. And Kunal Kapoor, who I really love so hard, I've worked with in many more films. Alice, who's not with us, wonderful girl again. And the entire crew and Waheeda ma'am, of course, the honor of just being in the same film as she was. And I hope we gather up again soon for the 20th year celebration. Sid, Atul, whoever wants to take over.
Good evening, everyone. For most of India, my identity is this film. They call me the guy who killed Anupam Kher in Rang De Basanti. For me, this is a film that I can't stop thanking the universe for giving me, because all of us come in with this misplaced belief that we will be here forever because we are vain and we are actors. And there are some films that actually fuel that, feeling of invincibility by giving you a lifetime of identity. And for me, Rang De Basanti is, I'm really sorry, it's just two people for me. It's Mehra and Aamir. And this film could have been made with anybody else around Mehra and Aamir. And so thank you, Aamir. Thank you, Mehra, for giving us the opportunity to run with you guys, even before we knew how to walk. I believe Rang De Basanti kind of came at a time in Indian cinema where posterity will demand that it be remembered as a very important placekeeper in Indian cinema. I remember Aamir calling me on the day of the release. And am I allowed to say this? He said, Sid, picture nahi chal rahi yaar. I said, kya baat kar raha hai? Ha yaar, it's only working in the multiplexes. And then in the evening he said, no dude, it's working everywhere. And this was the film that started off multiplexes defining a big chunk of your business in this country. And I believe that if this film came today, it'll probably stem the rot of, saying we made this many crores, but actually not making either a good film or a film that made any money. This would be that film that would make 1 billion crores, and it would still make a lot of sense. And people would still be proud that they saw it 5 times in the cinema. And for all the actors and technicians who are not here, What is that line? What is that line, Amrita? And you've been saying, she's not with us. What do you mean? For all the actors and technicians who are not in this auditorium today, we've all become a family, and our genetic code is Rang De Basanti. And thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. And as far as my takeaway for the first few years of Rang De Basanti, I influenced a lot of young kids to start smoking, and it was a terrible influence. And I remember I used to smoke a lot during this film, especially because we were shooting, lengthy takes and there was continuity. So I was always smoking a pack of Marlboro Reds. And I remember kids, when I went for the IIT screening, and they took me aside, and Ronnie and Rakesh and Maddie and everyone was on the other side. They took me to the other side in IIT Chennai and they said, sir, ek baar wo cigarette pee ke dikhao na, sir. So I said, don't ever say that to me again, but just for you. And I lit up a cigarette for them. And Sharman, Atul, Kunnu, Soha, Maddie, Waheeda ji, all the actors in this film, Rehman. I had the pleasure of sitting and watching him do the background score of this film. And Rakesh Mehra and I used to go on bike rides at 3 in the morning in Chennai to free ourselves from, any confusion so that we could be more awake when Rehman was playing the keyboard. And then my mother called and said, is Rakesh Mehra mad? How can you both go doubles without a helmet? So these were the kind of things we did. And हंसते खेलते बनी ये फिल्म, रोते रोते बनी ये फिल्म, देखते देखते बन गई और फिल्म और 10 साल हो गए यार. Thank you.